This is also the 6 versus the 3. Yes, correct. The Eagles are favored by 4.5 at home. 49ers are mega banged up. Christian McCaffrey has been, as JP would say, sacrificing people left and right to stay healthy, and we maybe have had a couple more sacrifices, and Trent Williams not playing, for example. And the Eagles have kind of, it's weird to say they limped their way to, a 12-win season.
Something like that, yeah.
But that's kind of how it felt in a lot of ways. But even with that, they're 4.5-point favorites. What are y'all's thoughts on this game?
I got two stats. One is going to do with injuries, and then the other has to do with Jalen Hurts. And I already mentioned that one earlier, and I'll go ahead and mention it one more time. Jalen Hurts has been a really, really good playoff quarterback, especially in the two Super Bowl runs. In the two Super Bowl runs, he was 8 touchdowns, 1 pick through the air. He also combined that with 4 rushing touchdowns. He was, just over 200 passing yards on average per game. He was having good rushing days as well in those 2 games. In the 2 one and done years for Philly, where they were on the road in both of those games, he turned the ball over in both of them and had poor days. He had better passing days, actually, on average than he did in his 2 Super Bowl runs. So maybe look, if he's having a good passing day, get a little scary. Another one on top of that is Jalen Hurts has never lost at home in the postseason. The second one is injuries. And San Francisco is as beat up as any team really in football. Of course, losing Nick Bosa, he's on IR. Brandon Ayuk has not played all season. Fred Warner is on IR. He won't play in this game. Michael Williams, their first-round pick, is on IR. They also have lost 2 different corners. They've lost other offensive linemen that were starters for them. And then even guys a ton of guys are questionable this week and have not practiced so far this week. Ricky Pearsall has not practiced this week after playing this past weekend. Trent Williams has missed a couple games and won't practice, and did not practice yesterday, I should say. D. Winters, their starting middle linebacker, didn't practice yesterday. George Kittle didn't practice yesterday. So many injuries there. In Philly, in their 2 Super Bowl runs, they've been as healthy as any team, really ever in Super Bowl runs.
Yeah.
In both of their Super Bowl runs, they had, going into the postseason, 21 of 22 starters available and healthy. And that's guys
insane.
that are going to be the starters.
Yeah.
Guess how many people are available and healthy to start this Sunday
For the Eagles,
for the Eagles?
see, I'm trying to think if I just lock in 21. 19?
21.
21. I should
The only guy
have
is
locked in
Lane
21.
Johnson.
Yeah.
Lane Johnson, who did practice yesterday, Wednesday, so they're kind of looking towards him playing potentially this weekend. Philly has had incredible injury luck, especially in their postseason runs. And so this becomes kind of the injury battle of can you overcome an injury list report that is longer than anyone's in the league. In fact, I'm pretty sure San Francisco has the most guys on IR in the National Football League, and then Philly, who has really nobody in any kind of question. They've lost their only starter that they've lost this year is Andrew Makuba, their starting safety. Lane Johnson is probably going to play this weekend, so that gets you up to 21 of your 22 starters. I think that at some point it was going to rear its head for San Francisco. As incredible as they had been offensively, and they were, especially for 2 weeks. Brock Purdy had 5 touchdowns back-to-back weeks. They got exposed last week, I would argue, in a game against Seattle at home, which makes it even worse in this one. That Seattle defense really shut them down. And Philly isn't to the caliber of Seattle's defense, but with them being at home, and even still, statistically, they are a top 5 defense themselves. I think we're potentially looking at another thing that rears its head. This of the games this weekend, of course, I think the Rams are going to beat Carolina. But outside of that, this is the game I'm most confident in picking. I think Philly is a very, very comfortable pick in this
Sure.
game. I don't like how, of course, San Francisco's hurt, but them against that really, really good defense, they struggled so much last week against Seattle. So you can't have any confidence coming to the postseason. That's at 2 and 3 weeks removed from 2 5-touchdown affairs. They have not been able to run the football well really all year with Christian McCaffrey, and they did not run it well last week. If you're going to give Philly in that pass rush time, and it's 3rd and 7, and Brock Purdy's got to make one of his passes, for me it looks to be twofold. Either he throws a pick or he gets sacked. He's been incredible scrambling around, but I do think if he scrambles around in this game, he's going to put himself in danger to turn the football over or have a much more negative play. I think he's got to get the ball out quick in a game like this. I really feel really confident about Philly, but how do you guys feel?
No, I mean, I think that's fair, and you just kind of compared it to the Panthers game. Not exactly, but you're like, this is the one I feel second most confident in. And I think it's a little similar to that game in terms of I feel like the Eagles would have to almost lose this game in some way, or turn the ball over multiple times for the 49ers. And you can say, well, you were just low on the Eagles in the totem pole, and you have the 49ers higher, and so maybe I should have flipped it. But the injuries have just become so much, and they've played so well through these injuries. But I mean, you have just lost multiple other key pieces, like you just mentioned, JP, that aren't practicing this week, that probably aren't going to play. And it's kind of like at some point it does have to matter. And they've done a phenomenal job of working around it all season, but it just feels like a horrible spot. And maybe this is when it's finally reached this breaking point. So I don't necessarily disagree in any way, JP.
Yeah, I think that, and it comes down to, let me check the playoff bracket. This is probably the matchup with the most playoff experience, right, between Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts, two guys who have
absolutely
been to Super Bowls. So that's going to be really fun to watch.
That's a great point.
Yeah, that's going to be a really, really fun dynamic in a playoff where a lot of guys are getting either their first playoff start or their opportunity to win their first game, like Bo Nix, like Justin Herbert, Caleb Williams, Bryce Young, all these guys getting their first starts. Sam Darnold trying to get his first win, I believe, in the playoffs. So this is going to be a really fun playoff and a really fun game, especially as two very experienced quarterbacks duke it out.
That is a great note. I love that. I don't know why earlier I mentioned that Bo Nix was making his first playoff start, but it is two quarterbacks that have played in Super Bowls before. Two quarterbacks that have lost Super Bowls to Kansas City and the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Jalen Hurts was able to redeem that in his second go around. But that's a great point. I think both of these quarterbacks, you kind of know what you're going to get, which I think is what's going to make this game even more fascinating. Brock Purdy and Jalen Hurts have both been pretty good playoff quarterbacks. Like their numbers have dipped, obviously, from their regular season stats, as every quarterback in NFL history has. But they've been pretty good. Like Brock Purdy was really, really good in the Super Bowl. He's been good in NFC championships and divisional round games. Jalen Hurts has been great in the Super Bowl as well, and good in NFC championships and divisional round games. So it's a fascinating matchup between the two teams. I think this will be the first time I bring it up because this is really the first team I think it actually applies to. I'm really curious with a few of these teams this weekend, and this is the one I feel more confident about. But does the firing and the availability now of John Harbaugh entice some of these teams with coaches that we don't necessarily have all the confidence in the world in?
Yeah.
And I think of like Nick Sirianni. Two others that I've heard mentioned are Matt LaFleur with Green Bay, which surprised me, which is why I didn't bring it up earlier, and Sean McDermott with Buffalo, which would also surprise me.
Yeah.
Those two are potentially options for John Harbaugh to potentially land and have these, elite quarterbacks, and they've had their coaching questions because they haven't had the postseason success that, people want. Nick Sirianni, of course, has won a Super Bowl, which, pisses him off more, but it's the Philly sports media. They're going to eventually they probably get what they want.
Sure.
I wonder if San Francisco somehow wins this game. Does the Nick Sirianni hot seat, speak up? And does like John Harbaugh become a potential candidate for Philly? He's coached there before. He coached with Philly. He wasn't the head coach, but he was at Philly before he went and became the head coach at Baltimore. So he's had experience there. Of course, that was 20 years ago. But it's a very interesting question. Just like if San Francisco's leading the second half, how quickly does that Philly crowd start to boo, and how quickly does that kind of conversation stir up
Sure.
in the event they lose?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair. It is insane to say that, but Philly fans are possibly the most irrational and reactionary fan base in sports, or at least they got to be up there. It would not be. I would not put it past them to boo a team that just won a Super Bowl the previous year. So, anything else to add? Should we pick this game?
Let's do it.
Take it away, JP.
Yeah, I'm going to take Philly -4.5. I'm going to take them to cover that. This is, for me, the second biggest spread of the weekend per the pyramid. I got Philly -6.5 here at the pyramid. And like I said, I'm the most confident on this one outside of that Rams game. But, I mean, that's a 10.5-point spread, of course. Philly is, Jalen Hurts has never lost at home in the playoffs. They've been incredible at home in the playoffs. And San Francisco's so beat up that I think it's just too much for them to overcome. I think this game is close for a little bit, but I'm looking for a backdoor cover from Philly, a late touchdown to extend the lead to 10. So give me the Eagles -4.5.
I'll go second. Maybe we should put our picks in individually because I feel like I keep tailing whatever the
you're
betting,
tailing.
and it's not intentional. I just feel like we have the same thoughts, or at least some of the same thoughts. I like Philly to win this matchup. 4.5 feels kind of small given the injuries that San Francisco is dealing with, the health that Philadelphia is benefiting from. And like I said, both these guys have playoff experience. They both have Super Bowl experience. Jalen Hurts has done it more, and he's done it better, right? He's won one, and he's been to more of them. So I'm going to go Jalen Hurts and the Eagles here to cover. How does the totem pole feel?
Well, I mean, the totem pole, I believe, would have the 49ers here.
Yeah, the total poll would tell you to pick San Francisco. I think San Francisco is just a 1.5-point dog instead of 4.5.
Makes sense. Man, I'm at a crossroads. I'm gonna take Philly. I'm gonna disagree with the totem pole due to the injuries. I don't love it though. And if I was gonna pick with the totem pole, I'd be like saying I think Philly would just win by 3. I wouldn't necessarily be picking the 49ers.
Yeah.
So I'll make it a clean sweep, which is we're being a little boring here, but it is what it is. And we can move on.
I don't know if I'd say we're being boring. We've taken underdog, favorite. Like we are consistently picking the same thing, but it's not like we're all picking. Like we haven't picked the underdog or the favorite 4 times. We've gotten some spice in there. We're just
higher seed.
Oh yeah.
Lower seed.
Higher seed.
There just hasn't been much disagreement so
I think
far.
I picked the higher seed
imagine
every time.
Yeah.
we might have some disagreement here in a second.